Hello.
Hello.
My God, that was stressful. It was so stressful. Harris has run off.
He's evaporated.
He's gone for a whiz.
The spirit of Brad Wright has come into his bedroom and like beating him up. He's gone.
Yeah, it was 100% a whiz break. Tony, sorry about that, mate. The debate ran on longer than we were expecting. But we are live now. How'd you enjoy that, Harris?
It was fun. That threw me for a loop whenever Matt and I thought the opening statement was another question. Everything's just worded so similarly. It threw me off. But besides that, it was fun as hell.
No, I didn't think it was. I didn't make a mistake. I was testing you.
Yeah. We had a 30-minute meeting yesterday to discuss how we were going to do this stream, and we still messed it up.
So I think the simple fix would be when we're making the questions, we should just add numbers to them instead of bullet points, so we actually know what.
I know I did on my side.
Yeah, there was no question. There was no numbers. If there was numbers, it probably would have been better.
Jenny!
Hello, Jenny. How are you? I did mean to say hello to you during, but I was moderating.
We were.
So rude.
I did highlight her comment. She's the only comment I highlighted throughout the entire thing. That was the acknowledgement. Just hello.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I didn't mean to be argumentative with you, Harris, but you were wrong all the way through. It was amazing. It was like I was arguing the opposite. It's like somebody that's like, it's like you decided to be wrong for like an hour and all the way through. It was brilliant.
Did he decide, or did you decide for him, though?
I think there's a certain caveat that should be added into that. But good, Jenny. I'm glad.
Yeah, you picked the the ribs. Yes, delivered by himself. I love how full of himself Jay is. Full of myself. It's not my fault. I'm this awesome. I mean, my mate genuinely once said, he was somebody had a go at him and he said, it's not my fault. 95% of the time I'm the cleverest person in the room. That's full of yourself. I only think I'm the cleverest person in the room like 80% of the time, something like that.
That's only when you're in the room with your kids, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm not full of myself, but I am opinionated. I think it's
David's bringing up a good point in there. As much as I do like Jar Jar Binks from like a child perspective,
Lazy Sunday. I have invited Jenny to come and say hi, but I don't blame her if she doesn't want to. If she's having a lazy day.
Yeah, but yeah, George Lucas brought the prequels back. You're the only person.
You could argue actually that they went downhill. Well, no, George Lucas brought back the Jar Jar Binks trilogy, and they were awful.
That's what people. Yeah.
When other people got involved, you could argue they stayed awful. But
I don't know. The theories that Jar Jar Binks was actually a Sith Lord, and then that got changed.
I love Jar Jar stuff.
Yeah,
because that would have been.
Is there, Harris? Was there anything that I brought up that made you go, "Yeah, fair enough"? Because actually, I think there's a couple of points you brought up that I'm like, "That's a damn good argument."
No, just because I'm in the just because I love Brad Wright. I'd love for him to showrun. I brought up points that I didn't think I was going to bring up that I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. I convinced myself of my own points a little bit more, but only like in the sense of like of really that closing argument of like, what the hell did I say at the very end?
It was about 5 minutes ago, Harris.
I know. I'd smoked too much weed. I'd give me 45 minutes and I will know it. I haven't smoked anything today either, but just the short-term memory loss is the bad part. The one downside.
Generally.
I ended it with saying, because he hasn't done a show since 2018. That's the thing that really I think is the biggest, not ultimatum for me, but the thing that made me like, oh wait, I didn't even think about that till I started saying it was, I mean, literally, Mandalorian changed the way TV happened, and that was the last time. That was when his last show finished airing.
Is that a good thing?
It can be.
It started amazing, but
well, it could go both ways. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. It just depends who's making it and the team. You know, I mean, Brad's talked about having the whole team involved before, and the team's really what makes it. I know this whole debate's about the showrunner, but like that's why I was trying to say like Robert J. Cooper, all these other names. Like we need the old guard there, or people that know it or grew up. Like if you don't have the old guard, you need 24 Matts, you know, like you need someone like not that older age that will be going like, oh yeah, but the people that grew up with it and literally have it ingrained into their memory banks. Like that's a different like
one T.
Of course.
M-A-T. Like a door.
Not T.
That's enough of that.
Okay, so you can do that.
Matt, take your opinion out of it. Who had the best argument, me or me? What?
I don't want to say you now.
I get the popular vote later on.
Heads for I win, tails for Harris loses.
For me, your arguments were better because I agree with you. I agree. We all agree. We're all on the same side of the coin. It's just Harry's got the short end of the stick here, and he had to argue the wrong one.
Yeah, this is
I can't say that I agreed with anything Harry said. He did make some good points, granted, but so does every debate. Like, there's always some good points on either side. But Laura, don't start. But ultimately, I agree that we do need Brad in some fashion.
If we can honestly say the way they go, do we want him to show run or do we just want him there? I mean, because in Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's kid is there as a consultant, right? And they've basically given him the job because of his name, because he's a Roddenberry. And the idea is he runs this company called Gene Rod Productions, and it was always there to appease fans. That's why they did it. But he's got absolutely no power. The idea is he's supposed to step in if they like really screw canon up, and he says he's had to do it once or twice maybe. And I'm like, well, you weren't there for Discovery season 1 then, were you? Because that was a shit show from beginning to end. If they just bring Brad right in as a consultant, right, with no real power, is that worse than him not being involved at all?
I think that's
right. If he has no power, then yes, for me, because he should have some input into the direction that it goes. I think. Well,
if Brad
should have the ability to jump in. We should have the ability to jump in, and let's say it's Mark Ferguson, Hall Cosby, or let's just say it's someone else completely different, right? They're going to have their own ideas, but Brad should be there to go, actually, you can't do this because of this, and have the right to change things if they break the rules that he established.
Harris?
Sorry. Somebody, Bob said maybe they can get Chris Rock to play Jack in the SG, but I just started laughing. I'm sorry. It threw me off.
I want Celine Dion to do it.
Oh, please. Chris Rock.
And then we're going to get Will Smith's like balls to come and slap him in the face.
Yeah, that'd be good. Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh, that's one of the goal. Yeah. But Harris, I mean, if he came on as a consultant with no power and it is basically just lip service to the fans, is that a problem?
I think that's kind of where he should be, because there's no such thing as just lip service to fans. And if he's involved as a consultant, it's Brad Wright. It's not like Roddenberry's kid coming in here or doing something like that. It's Brad Wright. If he is a producer of some sort, because that's what a consultant's going to be, he's credited as a producer of some sort. So if he is a producer of some sort, he's going to be on set. He's going to be something. And if there is an old guard, if Amazon has taken the time and due diligence to bring back, not necessarily old guard writer producing room kind of thing, the old guard cast wise, who do you think they're going to listen to? If Brad Wright's involved at all, he's got power. Maybe not showrunner power, but that's okay. If he's a consultant, he's truly a consultant. They can't involve him and say they can't pull the PJ. They can't say Peter Jackson and be like 1T to perfect time for the Peter Jackson reference. I'm just saying that was very great timing there. But they can't pull a let's call Peter Jackson and then hang up on him. If they call him at all, there is no hanging up. If he's involved at all, there is no hanging up. Where they were like not New Line, whoever was making the Rings of Power show were saying, "Oh, what's up, Peter Jackson? Can we get some advice? This, and this. These are ideas." And then 2 phone calls later, if there is a second phone call later, Brad Wright's involved, Yeah. Probably not with the making of the Bible, making of the series, but if he's already there, that just if he's there as a consultant in season 1 or in season 1 and 2, who's to say he couldn't be writing for season 2 or 3 or 4? If he starts out with the smaller amount of power, who's to say, wait a second, this is the guy that everybody actually pays attention to on set, or this is the guy that people pay attention to in the writer's room? Let's let him take a tax.
The argument to be made that Brad is, knowing that Brad might watch this, Brad is getting older.
And he's an old man. He's so old.
A whole 62.
Trying not to be offensive. Getting older. And
it's a joke because of his comment on, if you follow us on Twitter at @TV_Sai, it's a joke because of the comment he made when we shared this video. But go on. He's an old man. That's what you're saying, right?
He's a terribly old man, yes. Okay,
yes,
whatever.
Terribly old.
I think he should be involved at least very early on, and then maybe if he steps away later on, that's fine. But I would like him to be involved at least in the first season, so we know, not just so his name's attached to it and all the old fans would be like, "Oh, Brad Wright's making Stargate again." It's so we know that it at least plots the coordinates in the ship, and we know it's going to go in the right direction. Maybe it steers off every now and then, but we know generally it's going in the right direction.
I think that's fair. I mean, the reality of how MGM and Amazon does things is that Brad Wright, and I'm sorry, guys, after all that argument we've just had, the reality is Brad Wright will not be showrunning this new series. He just won't. Because MGM won't be producing the show. So there will be a production company that produces the show in cooperation with MGM and Amazon, and that production company will be the showrunner. This is like Star Trek now, with Secret Hideout produces the show in cooperation with CBS Studios. And so therefore the showrunner is hired by Secret Hideout. It's not hired by... Why did you mute me then?
I was just saying what happened.
So the reality is this is a business decision, and Brad Wright as an executive producer is probably the best we're going to in reality get. But as an executive producer, he comes in with an element of authority. If he comes in just as a consultant, my question really is that there just to appease fans? And in that case, should we be more pissed off? Because for me, that means nothing.
I'll go back to the argument I made in the debate right there. Is I just think even suggesting that fans need appeasement before, so I don't even like, honestly, all that. I mean, I just think it insults both the studio and us as a fan base as well. I truly think you just got to trust and see what happens. Where you did just lay out where the contracts work a little bit closer to Star Trek, the way New Trek is. But that doesn't mean it's going to end up like New Trek. And Amazon has taken like the time. Like we've been clamoring about this for 2 years. Like we want it, like we wish they would have announced it a year and a half ago. But they're doing their due diligence, and I do appreciate that. And And
It's not even they're doing their due diligence. It's just that all the dominoes have not fallen in the right place.
That
They've
too.
lined them all up, and then some like cats come along and knock the wrong one over.
I'm just saying here that we argued we need him, and I'm saying that if Stargate is going to be successful, I genuinely believe they need Brad Wright involved, and I think the best way to do it is to make him a showrunner. But there is then a reality involved in this. I want Manchester United to go out and buy Pele. It is a 25-year-old Pele, but the reality is Pele's dead, possibly. But that's so what I want and what I think Stargate needs to be successful, and unfortunately there is then a reality that goes with it. So my argument is still what I genuinely believe and valid in him, and actually if Amazon have got any sense, they will give him a serious role in this. But the reality is someone like Penguin and Parker is going to produce this TV show in partnership with MGM. It won't be. If Brad Wright wants to be the showrunner, he might have to create another production company to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I've seen the ISS movie, and it's boring as sin.
You saw it?
Yeah, God, it's boring. I saw it about a month ago, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I've been seeing all kinds of reviews. The first half, I keep hearing that it's really good, and then the second half, it just gets dumb and boring. Like it just turns into something that it shouldn't have been.
It feels like it's going to be one thing, and then about I would say the second, maybe halfway through the second act, it switches and becomes something else, and you just go, this is just stupid. It just don't work. But yeah, I saw an early version about a month ago.
Not worth checking out or worth checking out? I was debating seeing it. Okay.
Here we go. One of the things we did talk about though was canon, right? A lot.
Yeah.
And actually, I was watching an interview with the guy, and I've forgotten his name. Sorry, I should have written it down. But it was a guy that wrote Window of Opportunity, which most people would agree is one of the best Stargate episodes ever made. And he was talking about when he was brought in. He was basically asked to, write a couple of episodes, and they pitched a few episodes to Brad. They'd never watched Stargate before. What they did was they went and watched 2 or 3 episodes just to get a feel for it, and then they wrote a few episodes and pitched them to Brad and Robert Cooper. And they then went on to write Window of Opportunity and a few other episodes, which are considered some of the best episodes ever written. Some of the fan favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is, I think sometimes somebody new can come in, and maybe that is a new showrunner. And it can be better. And then maybe bring in Amanda Tappin or somebody like that to do it. That was the rumor that we heard a long time ago, that Amazon were considering getting Amanda Tappin to come in as maybe not showrunner, but as an executive producer or something else.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Matt? Can it sometimes be better not having the old guard, fresh blood?
Yeah, well, like the example you just gave, someone with basically no experience, so a fresh perspective, coming in and watching a couple of episodes. If they wrote the best episodes that exist, it's just, that's the proof, isn't it? That's the proof in the pudding. But is that not more rare? Would be my argument. Is that something that happens once in a blue moon? I mean, this is just one of those freak moment things where someone new has come in, written something, and it just so happens to be one of the best episodes that's rated by fans, or is it just genuinely they had a fresh perspective and they were able to capture something that someone who had been there quite a while hadn't yet done?
It is a rarity for that to actually happen, but it's the only reason it's a rarity is because the people that come in with a new perspective and new stuff don't take the time to go back and do like the necessary research per se, or like there's the Acolyte show coming out this year for Star Wars. A lot of people are worried about because Leslie Headland was saying like, oh, I don't really care about Star Wars, never really seen a whole bunch, but we're going to do it kind of like in our own way kind of deal. And, a bunch of Star Wars people are not very happy about that being said, but kind of the same thing. Like, hey, Gilroy wasn't the biggest Star Wars guy, and he was brought in for Rogue One and Andor. It's amazing. It might not feel inherently Star Wars the same way everything else does, but it has that new kind of tonality to it, new feel to it, while still inherently feeling Star Warsy and being succinctly in that world. I don't know. It just the person coming in there, the reason it's rare is there's a lack of respect to the source material a lot of times, and not necessarily lack of respect, a lack of willfulness to go in and truly earn the respect that you need to write something like that.
It's just ignorance to the source material.
Yeah, or not even ignorance. Well, ignorance, but like a willful, blissful ignorance. That's the better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think secondly, one's got a point there that I mean, Star Trek has changed a lot since Discovery. It's like they did the first season of Discovery, and the fan reaction was so negative that they sort of went, we better change that. And I think there's been an evolution through Star Trek over 7 years, 8 years since Discovery season 1 came out, and
14, 15.
They're going in the right direction. And I do generally think they're going in the right direction. They're listening to fans. They're trying to keep with canon. What I'm saying is I don't want Stargate to have to go through 5 years of evolution to get back to where it should have been at the beginning. And that's what Star Trek has done. They came in with completely new ideas, and they've had to go back to Braga Star Trek of 15 years ago. We don't need that. We need this to hit the ground running from the beginning. And what we cannot have is a showrunner to come in with brand new ideas and go, you know what, the Goa'uld are going to have a completely different thing. All right.
This is a good question.
Yeah.
That's also another. I mean, Harris, I thought actually you brought a really good point up there, and Jenny is bang on. New Stargate has to attract new fans. It has to. You cannot just do a TV show for us skaters. We'll go watch it anyway, and we keep saying this. We'll go watch it anyway. It's got to attract new fans somehow. How do you do that?
That's my biggest worry with that's kind of my point behind like the whole the formulaic aspect of Stargate and how Brad did try to evolve it, and I hated saying anything against that because he was trying to evolve Stargate with Atlantis and with Universe, but the biggest issue is he didn't actually evolve it. He just tweaked it. It was just a tweak. There was tweaks instead of a true evolution for the show. There were parts of an evolution for the show.
I think Universe was more of an evolution than Atlantis, for sure.
It could season 2 for damn sure.
What you were saying in your debate about having less of a formulaic and more episodic and more like arc-driven, like kind of content. That is what SG was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just like Monster of the Week. There was an overall arc. And there were like two or three part episodes because there was like a thing that was going wrong, and it just wasn't resolved in one episode like it always was in SG1. That's not 100% correct. They weren't always resolved in SG1 in one or two episodes, but largely Monster of the Week episode it was. There's a thing, we've got an incursion. There's a deadly virus, and then at the end of the episode, it's gone. But with SGU, they flipped that completely, and it wasn't gone. The threat always remained. There was always something, and I think that was the evolution.
Yeah, and Joe says just made the point there that the original showrunners didn't nearly cast David Hewlett. To be fair, they wanted David Hewlett. There was a issue with executives kept pushing for a different character and a different sort of character. One point in that video that I did last week was they sort of said that they had their 1 to 5 people they wanted for the character, and the executives had a completely opposite. Their 1 to 5 was their 5 to 1. Brad Wright and Robert Cooper wanted David Hewlett. They kept saying, we need somebody like David Hewlett, but the executives wanted a different type of character. So we were just lucky that they won the argument.
Didn't he audition for another role, and they said you were too much like McKay? Like he was going to be a different role. He would like.
It was going to be a different character completely, and he just kept playing
McKay, but he was auditioning for a whole new role, and they said you're too much like McKay, and he's like, yeah, because I am McKay.
Yes.
Well,
yeah. I mean, Jenny Steven talks here about there are about 300,000 active Stargate fans worldwide right now, and that is, I mean, based on things like Facebook and all these sorts of things that people actively are interested in Facebook right now and in Stargate right now.
Sleeping
How
giant.
do we make that millions though? Because any new show has to be millions. It has to draw in the US 10 million viewers,
Yeah.
or more.
I mean, just to put it in perspective real fast, the Ahsoka show was deemed not very successful numbers wise, and it was 28, 29 million people watching the first episode, I believe.
Worldwide or in America?
I believe worldwide. I would think worldwide.
Yeah. Worldwide, 28 million isn't great.
No. But that's just to bring it from 300,000 to we need 28, 29 million to be like one of those top 10 Nielsen rating shows kind of deal, because that's what you want Stargate to be. You want it to be in that top 10 Nielsen. Maybe not.
We need
I'd love to have some piece of content reviewed 28 million times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, any new show that will drag back people that had forgotten about Stargate and that love it and will come back. But, 1.5 million.
You got to start somewhere, honestly.
In the US. We need that in the UK alone,
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really care about viewers. What they will care about is when they then do, if they see a little bit of a spike in subscribers, and when they ask those subscribers, did you subscribe to MGM Plus? And let's be honest, that's where this is going to end up. Did you subscribe to MGM Plus to watch Stargate? And enough people say yes, they're happy. If they get 1 million new subscribers to MGM Plus and 90% of those people say we subscribed for Stargate, Amazon will do a backflip. They'll be very, very happy with that. They won't care. And then they'll show it on it, and then they'll show it on Prime 6 months later.
I'm not gung ho about MGM. I think it's such a wrong decision to even remotely put it anywhere in the realm of MGM Plus instead of Prime.
Yeah. Though fortunately, though, this show is probably going to be, from the most recent thing I've been listening to, it's going to be on MGM Plus in the United States. It may not be, and probably here in the UK as well, because they're about to start pushing MGM Plus big time in Europe, but they haven't really up till now. They've only really pushed it.
Do you know how hard it is to subscribe to MGM Plus?
It's really, really easy. I did it by accident once.
If you go into the app and you click on anything that is MGM Plus, you press, how do I watch this? There's no button to buy it at all in the app. You have to go on the website. Most people will be using a mobile.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong on it'll appear on MGM Plus. Well, I tell you what, I actually think what's going to happen is we're going to get a movie anyway. I actually think that seems to be where we're going. The argument for MGM is they want a series because they see that as their way of pushing to the next level. If they want to continue growing MGM Plus, getting a series like Stargate is the way to do it. And that's their argument. That's the argument they made back in August. So if we get a series, and we don't know if they have or not, and Jordanator, I've noticed you've asked that question a couple of times. I will answer it in a second. If we get a series, I think MGM will be screaming for it to premiere on MGM Plus. And from what MGM Plus and Michael Wright and thing was talking about in that interview a couple of months ago, the plan would seem to be it will go to MGM Plus, and then when just before season 2 comes out, it'll go on Prime, and then season 2 will get MGM Plus again, and that's how they'll do it. And that seems to be something they're thinking about. They really want to push MGM Pluses like that, this thing, but it depends. I actually don't think that's what's going to happen, though. I still think it's going to be a movie. Everything I'm hearing is that Amazon were not convinced it's going to be a movie.
I still think a movie's best, but MGM Plus, no matter what, at the end of the day, it's just another barrier people have to get through before they actually are able to watch the show. It's just such a bad idea. It's such a bad idea, and I always say I always say HBO like executive names when I'm trying to say the MGM people. Michael Wright, right?
Mike Wright, yeah.
Mike Wright. I get wanting to push MGM Plus. That's your baby. You want it to grow, but at the behest of a show that, and the reason he wants it wants Stargate is because he knows how pivotal it is, not just for Amazon as a company, but I mean for Amazon as a company. Like, you think putting a barrier in front of that's a good idea, dude? Sorry, Mike, right? I just don't. There's no logical argument for that actually makes sense numerically at the end of the day. I don't think.
I think it just makes sense as well that, again, I mean, we talked about how MGM and Amazon are not announcing Stargate right now because when the strikes ended, they then had to get everything up and rolling again. But also there is an issue that they knew this was coming. I mean, they knew they were going to slim down certain areas. Like Jenny says, they lost certain resources. They then need to get that all set up before they can announce and before they can move people around to get the thing. Because remember, this is all about people and, you know, as well. So I do think that's another reason why thing. But Amazon is still locked in argument of movie series. Brad, young guys. Okay. Yeah. It was not resolved by the layoffs. I think the layoffs are just another reason why what I'm hearing is this decision is not going. And the most thing of recent I'm hearing is MGM Plus have not released their publicly not released their development slate like they were expected to. I'm hearing that it has been sort of spread among certain people in the industry, but it's not being publicly released. And one of the reasons is it's not complete because they don't actually know what they're doing. Or they know what they want to do, but they've got to get these things sorted out first. And it's just one more business decision delaying a show that we desperately want. But it's not just delaying Stargate, it's delaying RoboCop, Legally Blonde 3, the thing we actually care about on this channel. And another project. Amazon spent nearly $10 billion on MGM Plus, and they've done nothing with it yet. Nothing. And all these things are just in the way.
The thing that, honestly, like, RoboCop's the thing that flabbergasted me the most. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but flabbergasted is the one I'll stick with. Like, Stargate, it makes sense for them to hold back a little bit, make sure they're doing it right, make sure everyone's going to be happy, or at least if they're not going to be happy, it reaches the right compromise where everybody might not be happy, but everybody's got a slice of the pie where they're going to at least be able to enjoy it. Legally Blonde 3 is kind of that thing where, like, okay, they can just drop it whenever they want to. It's not, I don't know if they've even filmed it or not yet, but that's like an easy thing where they can at least, like, they got Reese Witherspoon to jump in there, and they have, like, all you got to do is at least get the project going on that. Where RoboCop, I think, is that thing where that's just, it's I don't know why it is. I mean, obviously for us, we're sci-fi people, but RoboCop is a household name, and really there's no reason for it to be. It hasn't been on screen in 30 years. And really the better version, the only true version that, I guess we got the reboot, but that doesn't even really count, you know? Like, it's not great. There's no reason for RoboCop to be the household name that it is. And because it is the household name that it is, why not announce that you're working on it? Just to have something, some kind of momentum for the company itself. You don't need to announce all the other projects. Of course, people enjoy a slate, but just say, hey, we're working on something. We're not stagnant. We're not just sitting in the water over here. We're paddling, you know?
Well, I mean, that is the rumor I'm hearing, that Amazon top people have been going to MGM Plus, and not just MGM Plus, but Jennifer Salke runs obviously both, and go, why aren't we doing anything with this entity that we spent $9 billion on? Where is the results? I know we've had the strikes, but come on, we bought all of this IP and we're not doing anything with it. Come on, let's announce something. And I know there's things like they've got to get the studio space, and they've got to, I mean, Amazon have gone from being a really small company that was basically just financing movies, and they actually now want to make it themselves. That's not a little thing to try to do.
No, not at all.
There is big projects on it, and Amazon are trying to cut costs, like all of the other studios. Everybody, Paramount have said all of their stuff's got to cost 30% less than what it cost last year. So, and Amazon are exactly the same boat. They've massively overspent, and now they've got to sort themselves out. So, yeah. Existing IP was assigned after the purchase. All existing franchises went to Amazon Creative Studios. Yep. All new series stayed with MGM Creative Studios. Yeah. So anything existing, MGM, anything new was going to go over to Amazon. And now we've got all of these layoffs, and nobody knows where they're at again. you know, and it's just like started again. Yeah,
Oh.
Mike Wright though is again Mike Wright. It's like Mike Wright, Chris Ottinger both survived, but they have several different response. MGM Mike Wright isn't just the head of MGM Plus; he's the head of 2 or 3 other things as well, and he's got his fingers in lots of pies. Amazon like moving people around as well, and it's, you know, it's confusing. Penguin and a Parker. Nothing has changed since the last time I mentioned this, but so because Jordan has asked me a couple of times in the questions. Jen, if you've heard anything new, please let me know. The last thing I heard was that there was conversations about a new contract for them to go from development, because they did a development contract when they were doing development work a year ago. And there were conversations during the strikes about sort of like a new contract to start actually writing scripts, etc. But all I heard was there was whispers of it. I never heard anything more. I've basically heard nothing from firm on Penguin and a Parker for a year now, since the conversations ended last Christmas. I have heard other production companies' names knocked around, including like Imagine and a couple of others. So, but there seems to be still rumors, but nothing solid, nothing like we had before.
No more Jordan Peele's coming along?
No, nothing like that. But the director, I'm told they know who the director's going to be.
Oh, really?
That was before they seemed to, from the last thing I heard, the one of the people I talked to got sacked as well. Yeah. Jen, get back to us as soon as you do. So the last thing I heard was when Jordan Peele was being considered and they had him in and they had a chat with him, etc. They had 4 or 5 people in. They picked a director.
Oh, wow.
And they apparently have a script for a movie, but then that's just sat on the back burner while they're sorting all their other problems out in a very simplistic form. So it's ready to go. It's just there's so many other things that they've got to do because of the strikes, because of redundancies, because they're trying to figure out budgets, because they're trying to get studio space and they're trying to get their own rather than using other people's, which is cheap. All of these things are not happening quickly, you know, and that's why people like, I want to say Bob Hoskins, but that's not his name.
Mario.
Yeah, Hopkins is not happy and he wants it. I don't think he's, from what I heard was, it's not pissed that it's happening, because he's like, okay, fine, but what are we doing about it? Okay, these are the problems, fine. What are we doing about it? And come on, can we do something? So yeah, let's see what happens. But apparently there are a couple of, but that most recently, I think it was let me just double check the.
Well, I like the fact that the director's talk is still even on the table, because that means it's most likely going to be a movie, at least in my mind. That's nice.
That was the most recent conversation, but obviously during the strikes, everything sort of got put back up in the air again. Yeah, Imagine, which is the company that's owned by Ron Howard and somebody else. Apparently, those conversations with them.
Ooh, ow, ooh. You know who's just kind of started directing the last few years, specifically in The Mandalorian, who would probably be involved a little bit in the Imagine company if it's a Ron Howard company, who would probably be a great director? Frickin' Bryce Dallas Howard. Her episodes of The Mandalorian are by far like, there might be like, it's Rick Famuyiwa and Bryce Dallas Howard who tend to have the best episodes of Mando. Even in the new season, she had the best episode, I think, in the whole season, typically. She'd be pretty darn good, honestly. I'd never even thought about that.
I would think if somebody like Imagine steps in, then I think it's very possible that actually Penguin and Parker just did the development work. And then because everything's gone on and on and on, they've stepped away and they're going to concentrate on other things. And then somebody like another company is going to step in. The problem is my sources won't necessarily know that. I have some that might find out, but if it's all going on in a different company, those conversations are going to be limited and we're not going to know. The first thing we'll know is there's an announcement, because it's not going, because the conversations aren't going on at MGM. Does that make sense? It's going on externally. You know, there's somebody else will be going, let's have a, you know.
Just for the sake of just the thought process, if it is a movie, and you just two, I mean, let's try to be realistic. So not necessarily a Spielberg or a Scorsese or even a Chris Nolan or somebody like that. If you could just pull a director out of your arse down there and say, here who it is. Who's it going to be? Who's your director for Stargate the movie, the new movie?
I'd almost quite like it to be somebody that hasn't done a lot. Maybe I know that's sort of like that was the argument against Rings of Power, that these people don't know what they're doing. I'm almost like, I want a name I don't know, and then you go, oh, they did that and they did this and they did something else, and you're like, oh man, that was brilliant. If it is a big name, if it's somebody you know his name, and that what kind of made me nervous about when Jordan Peele apparently was having conversation. The guy that directed The Creator as well.
Gareth Edwards. That's one of the two names that came to mind, and I also like Jenny just
was apparently in that conversation. I'd be cool with that. I'd be like, I want a name I don't necessarily know, but then when you go, oh yeah, oh my god, they did that, amazing, yeah, let's go for that. But there are so many directors out there that either visually are brilliant or story-wise are brilliant. I want somebody that's story-wise brilliant, which is what my argument against like somebody like J.J. Abrams, who I don't think is a bad director, but I think he's visually a good director. I think it's style over substance. I want somebody that's substance. You know,
J.J. Abrams is kind of like Snyder before Zack Snyder was Snyder, but just in like a little different way. That style over substance.
I was quite excited about Jordan Peele, because I was thinking that man, he will not mess around with the story. It'll have something. My only concern is, will there be an agenda with it? It's not necessarily an agenda I disagree with, but he does want to say things about his he believes in a story, and I'm like, sometimes it overtakes the story. But I think he loves MGM, he loves things like Stargate. Apparently he loves people that are involved in Stargate, and I think he did a good job. But he's moved on to his new project now anyway, so it sounds like that didn't happen. So
he's doing a horror project with Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, I think Jenny makes a good point there, that God of War has become a big thing, and apparently Penguin and Parker were going to split it, and it was going to be Hawk Ostby on one side and Mark Fergus on the other, and then they were apparently trying to hire new writers and things. They were building up towards doing it, but then nearly a year ago that went very quiet. So I don't think it happened. I think it's moved on to a different production company now, but I don't know who. And if it ends up being somebody like Imagine, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, honestly. As much as the Penguin and Parker people are great, that's just what spread them thin. That spread them maybe a little too thin, because God of War is something that I never played the games because PlayStation exclusive, and I've always just played Xboxes, but people adore that stuff. Like, adore it. And it's got some intricate, it's mythology. I mean, it's got intricate story that you really want to get right. So,
yeah.
You know?
He is a good listener, isn't he, Elbow? That's why I love him so much. He just listens to what I say and nods. And then,
but if he starts talking, Jay does say, "Shut up, Matt," very, very quickly.
But yeah, just when we start getting into this, he does. Yeah, they lack studio space, but they are buying new studio space all the time, and they're doing these long-term rents with Hackman Group. So they don't own any. They rent loads, but it's all long-term rents. So yeah. Anyway.
Matt.
No, he's having a rest. Mediating's difficult. But anyway, we're going to say goodnight. Matt, stop doing what you're doing. I can see you.
I can see you.
I can see you. Stop it. There we go. So we're going to...
Who's your director being fast?
It's been a long... they're investors in the Hackman Group, apparently. God of War discusses of politics. My understanding is PMP. It's just put it in hold due to politics. Because we haven't actually moved forward on God of War for 12 months. So that's still sat in development. So yeah.
My missus is watching this, and she's just texted me saying I'm a good listener.
And you're also hung like a donkey, apparently. I don't know. Anyway,
you weren't supposed to say that publicly. No one's supposed to know I've shown you.
Old men are always the best lovers, I hear. Right. But boys, that was genuinely a brilliant debate. Harris, you didn't let me bully you.
Well, of course not.
That was so much fun.
That was fun.
Screw my notes up, throw them away. Hand on heart, who won the argument? Who had the best argument? Not just like who had the, like, because obviously I had the Brad.
Considering Harris had to argue with something he doesn't believe in, I thought he argued pretty well. So
he did actually, didn't he? He came up with a couple of good points.
I was about to say, I don't know if anybody won overall. Technically, I think it just would be that depend on the points. Honestly, for this one was just it was specific.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, that was excellent, guys. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, everybody else that jumped in as well. The comments, like I said, we had like 400 comments while we were on, which is brilliant. I didn't read any of them. I'll go back and have a look. We bald guys are great between the sheets.
A lot of the comments are about my hat.
I'll can't make a decision.
The moderating hat. It's the official moderator.
No poll to end it.
Let me moderate this. I've got to moderate this. Yes.
Guys, thank you so much. And you guys, again, you put in the time to make the arguments, and it's really good. We're gonna do another one of these sort of debates in a couple of weeks. I want to do Star Trek versus Star Wars, but we got to think about how to.
So, real quick, just while we have people in here as well, Secular Monk, I think, is the guy that brought it up earlier. Or I think Secular Monk might be a lady, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Secular Monk, the person, brought it up earlier, and they said we needed to get R&B on the show to talk Star Trek. Robert Meyer Burnett at some point. I think y'all know who that is. He's just a great guy on YouTube. He'd be a good person to try to get into, like. He's a big Trekkie, so if maybe, we talked about the idea of like getting other people to come collaborate with us and do like a debate kind of style from that. He might be a good person to jump at like from the get-go and get on the Star Trek side if somebody wanted to do Stargate versus him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's good to do channel versus channel and that sort of thing, and we'll definitely think about that. But obviously, things like that take a little bit of time to organize.
So go suggest it to him too. Go suggest it in Robert Meyer Burnett's comments.
Yeah, go tell Robert. Yeah, go tell him to come bugging us.
The Burnett work, the post geek singularity. Tell them they need to get a little sidetrack in their lives.
Yeah, because people love
us. We need to get David Hewlett on here.
Hey, if anybody has got a link to him that I can message him, go ahead, and I would love to. But yeah, I will have a word with our friends and a couple of other channels to see if we can get something going. All right. But I just love arguing with you, Harris, because you make it so easy.
Oh, well, thanks.
Stormy is still not very well. But he's on the mend, guys. He had an infection in his in a bone, so we immediately obviously went boner. But Jenny Stiver's just become a member of Sidetrack. That's what happened.
Jenny!
Yeah, love having Jenny with us. She is amazing. Thank you so much. But yeah, Stormy is on the mend. He will be with us hopefully the next week or two. He's on some quite heavy medication at the moment, so he can't come on live because he talks like a pissed bird. He doesn't know what he's coming to go. But he's really not very well. So but he's getting better and he will be back with us. So yeah, he's on the mend. He's on the mend. That's the main thing.
Send some love to old Professor Cringe.
Yeah, so go find him and say hello. He'll love that. He's bored, sat, and he can't walk around. Can't believe I haven't done that before. Well, Jen, we want your time, not your money, really. We want you to come on and talk to us. So, right, guys, say goodnight, everybody. And we will be back next week with us a hangout, probably.
Well, Matthew? Good morning, because it's only 11 over here, but,
Well, good night, good morning, good evening, wherever the hell you are in the world, as we always say, start our videos. Matt with 1T, thank you so much for moderating, sir. We'll see you next week. And Harris, you were wrong.
It happened.
Bye, everybody.
See y'all.
Bye.